My family laughed at me at my sister's engagement until her fiancé looked at me and froze. I was the disappointment, the one who couldn't get it together, the daughter who'd wasted her potential on art classes and failed relationships, while my sister Vanessa climbed every rung of success with her perfect manicured nails. That's what they all believed, anyway, sitting around the table at Maestro's in Beverly Hills, crystal champagne flutes catching the low amber light. Everyone dressed like they were attending a wedding rather than just an engagement dinner. My mother, Caroline, wore vintage Chanel, my father, Richard, had on his Rolex Daytona, and Vanessa practically glowed in her cream-colored silk dress that probably cost more than my rent. I wore a simple black dress from Nordstrom Rack, the clearance tag I'd forgotten to remove, probably still tucked under my arm. They'd already made 3 jokes about my outfit before the appetizers arrived. "Well, at least Elena showed up on time for once," Vanessa said, flashing that brilliant smile that had charmed donors, board members, and apparently her new fiancé. "That's progress, right, Mom?" Caroline laughed, that tinkling sound she made when she wanted everyone to know she found something amusing, but not quite funny enough to genuinely care. "Baby steps, darling, baby steps. Though I have to say, Elena, you couldn't have found something a bit more festive? This is a celebration." I sipped my water, not trusting myself with wine yet. I thought showing up was festive enough. Richard cleared his throat, the sound he made when he wanted to smooth over tension without actually addressing it. "Let's just enjoy the evening, shall we? This is about Vanessa and—" He gestured toward the man sitting beside my sister, the man I'd barely looked at since arriving because looking at him meant acknowledging how perfect he seemed, how utterly right for the golden child of the Harrison family. Sebastian said, placing her hand over his. "Sebastian Chen. Though honestly, Daddy, you've met him 4 times now." Sebastian smiled politely, but I caught something in his eyes as he glanced around the table, like he was cataloging everyone's micro-expressions, filing away data for later. He had that look successful people get, the one that says they're always working even when they're supposed to be relaxing. I recognized it because I used to have it too, back before I'd supposedly thrown my life away. "Sorry, son," Richard said, and I almost laughed at how quickly Sebastian had been promoted to family member. When I'd brought home boyfriends, Richard had barely learned their names before they'd disappeared. "I'm terrible with names, always have been. It's a wonder I remember my own daughter's names half the time." "Oh, please," Caroline said. "You've never forgotten Vanessa's name, just Elena's when she was going through that phase where she wanted to be called Ellie." "I was 7, Mom." "And so dramatic about it." She turned to Sebastian, her expression shifting into that warm, welcoming mask she wore for people she actually approved of. "Elena's always been our little artist, very sensitive, very emotional, not quite built for the real world like Vanessa here, but we love her anyway." The words landed like they always did, soft and sweet on the surface, poisonous underneath. I stopped trying to defend myself years ago. What was the point? In their version of the story, I was the screw-up, the one who'd dropped out of law school after 1 semester because I couldn't handle the pressure, the one who'd blown through 3 jobs in 2 years, the one who still lived in a studio apartment in Koreatown.
I didn't lie. You just never asked. You assumed I was failing because that fit your narrative better. I looked around the table at their shocked faces and felt something like power thrumming through my veins. I didn't tell you because I knew this is exactly how you'd react. You'd either try to take credit for it or find some way to diminish it. And honestly, I didn't want your opinion. I didn't need it. I built something real, something that matters, and I did it completely on my own. Caroline's hand fluttered to her throat, where she wore the diamond necklace Richard had given her for their 30th anniversary. "Elena, sweetie, that's not fair. We're your family. We would have been proud of you." "Really? Would you? Because I'm pretty sure 5 minutes ago you were telling Sebastian how I wasn't built for the real world." The waiter appeared with the wine list, took one look at our table, and wisely retreated. Sebastian cleared his throat. I should mention that Patterson Consulting Solutions isn't just successful. Elena's firm brokered the restructuring deal that saved the Children's Health Network from bankruptcy last year. That's a $140 million organization serving underprivileged kids across 5 states. She saved thousands of jobs and kept critical services running. That made national news in the nonprofit sector. Vanessa's perfectly manicured nails dug into the tablecloth. And you never thought to mention this? Not once? Not even when Mom was crying about how worried she was about your future? Mom wasn't crying about my future, I said quietly. She was crying about how my failure reflected on her. There's a difference. Richard tried to regain control of the conversation, slipping into his boardroom voice. Well, this is certainly surprising news. Elena will need to sit down and have a proper conversation about this business of yours. I have connections that could help you expand, and Vanessa's expertise in corporate law could be invaluable for structuring growth. And there it was. Less than 5 minutes after learning I'd built something successful, they were already trying to absorb it, to make it theirs. I felt the old familiar anger rising, but underneath it was something new, something harder and clearer. No thanks, I said. I'm doing fine on my own. Caroline's shock was morphing into something else now, something that looked almost like anger. Elena Patricia Harrison, that is no way to speak to your father. He's offering to help you. I didn't ask for help. I don't need help. That's the whole point. Vanessa laughed, but it came out brittle. Oh, this is rich. Saint Elena so much better than the rest of us, hiding her little success story like it's some kind of treasure. You know what I think? I think you kept it secret because you were afraid. Afraid that if you told us, we'd see through whatever smoke and mirrors you're using to fake it. I'm not faking anything. Prove it. Vanessa leaned forward, and I recognized that look. It was the same expression she'd worn when we were kids and she was about to win an argument, when she was about to deploy the final blow that would leave me in tears. If you're so successful, if you're really making all this money and doing all this important work, show us. Let us see your offices. Introduce us to your clients. Unless you're worried we'll discover it's all just a fantasy you've been living in that sad little apartment of yours. Sebastian touched her arm gently. Vanessa, that's not necessary. No, it's fine, I said, meeting my sister's eyes. You want proof? I'll give you proof. But I want something in return. Richard perked up at this. He understood transactions. What do you want? An apology. From all of you. A real one, not the fake kind where you say you're sorry, I feel bad, but you didn't actually do anything wrong. I want you to apologize for treating me like I was broken, for making me feel worthless, for deciding who I was without ever bothering to find out the truth. Richard looked like I slapped her. Elena, we never made you feel worthless. You literally just told Sebastian I had nothing to show for my life. In those exact words, Mom, nothing to show for it. The silence stretched, painful and thick. A couple at a nearby table glanced over, then quickly looked away. Finally, Richard cleared his throat again. Well, this is certainly surprising news. Elena, we'll need to sit down and have a proper conversation about this business of yours. I have connections that could help you expand, and Vanessa's expertise in corporate law could be invaluable for structuring growth.
The rest of the dinner was awkward and stilted, everyone tiptoeing around the elephant I dragged into the room. Sebastian kept trying to ask me questions about my work, genuinely interested, but Vanessa would cut him off or change the subject. I could see him noticing it, filing it away. By the time dessert came, he was watching the family dynamics with the careful attention of someone re-evaluating a major decision. We said our goodbyes in the parking lot, next to Richard's Tesla and Vanessa's Mercedes. Caroline hugged me tight, whispering, "Tomorrow then, we'll see you tomorrow," like she was afraid I might disappear in the night. Richard shook my hand formally, still processing. Vanessa kissed the air beside my cheek, her signature move when she was furious but had to maintain appearances. Sebastian hung back as they walked to their cars. Elena, he said, catching my arm gently. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did you really keep it secret? And please don't tell me it was just because they wouldn't understand. There's something else." I looked at this man who was about to marry my sister, this stranger who'd somehow seen through to the truth in a matter of minutes, and I made a decision to be honest. Because the minute they knew about it, it wouldn't be mine anymore. It would become this thing they could take credit for or control or use to make themselves look good. My success would just be another Harrison family achievement, proof that their parenting worked, evidence that they raised winners. And I needed something that was just mine, something they couldn't touch. He nodded slowly. "That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually." He glanced toward Vanessa's car, where she was waiting with the engine running. "Your sister doesn't know who you really are, does she?" "No, none of them do." "Are you going to let them? Tomorrow, I mean? Are you really going to show them everything?" I thought about it. My office in a converted warehouse in the Arts District, the team of 12 brilliant consultants I'd assembled, the conference room wall covered in thank you notes from organizations we'd saved, the awards I'd won and never mentioned, the bank account that had more zeros than my parents probably suspected. All of it mine. All of it built from nothing but determination and vision and work. "Yeah," I said, "I'm going to show them. And then I'm going to set boundaries they can't cross. And if they can't respect those boundaries, I'm going to walk away. I've spent 32 years trying to be enough for them. I'm done." Sebastian smiled, and it was sad and knowing. "Good for you. Really, good for you." He started to walk away, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I think you're extraordinary, and I think your family is going to realize they almost lost something precious because they were too busy looking at the wrong daughter." He left me standing there in the parking lot, and I watched him fold himself into Vanessa's Mercedes, watched her lean over to kiss him, watched them drive away into the glittering Los Angeles night. And I felt something shift inside me, some old burden finally sliding off my shoulders. I drove home to my studio apartment, the one they'd mocked, the one I actually loved, with its vintage tile and its plants in the windows and its view of the city that never looked quite the same twice. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my tiny balcony, looking out at the lights, thinking about tomorrow. My phone buzzed, a text from my assistant Jenna. "Did you see the email from the Thornton Group? They want to move forward with the $50 million restructure. Congratulations, boss. This is huge." I smiled and typed back, "Set up the contract meeting for next week. And Jenna, clear my schedule for tomorrow morning. I need to give a very special tour." The next message was from my mother. "Elena, I couldn't sleep. I need you to know I really am sorry. I'm proud of you. I should have said that tonight. I'm proud of you." I stared at the words for a long time before responding. "Thanks, Mom. See you tomorrow." And then, because the universe apparently had a sense of humor, a message from Vanessa. "Bring proof. Real proof. I still think you're bluffing." I laughed out loud, startling a pigeon from the ledge. Oh, Vanessa, always needing to win, always needing to be right, always needing to be the best. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. I slept better that night than I had in years, and I woke up to sunshine streaming through my windows and the smell of coffee from the cafe downstairs. I put on a navy suit I'd bought for client meetings, did my makeup carefully, and pulled my hair into a sleek ponytail. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone who looked nothing like the daughter they'd pitied last night. I saw the woman I'd become when they weren't watching. My office was in a converted textile factory in the Arts District, all exposed brick and polished concrete floors and huge windows that let in floods of natural light. I'd chosen this space deliberately, wanting something that felt creative and innovative rather than corporate and cold. The sign outside read Patterson Consulting Solutions in simple bronze letters, understated and professional. I got there an hour early to make sure everything was perfect. My team knew the family was coming. They'd been gossiping about it for days, excited to finally meet the mysterious relatives I never talked about. Jenna had even baked cookies, which made me laugh because she was trying so hard to make a good impression. "Stop stress baking," I told her, stealing a chocolate chip cookie that was still warm. "They're just people." "They're your family. That makes them important. Plus, from what you've told me, they sound terrifying." "They're not terrifying. They're just very good at making Vanessa stood in the center of the room, slowly turning, taking it all in. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. How long have you been doing this? I started the firm 4 years ago, spent the first year working out of coffee shops in my apartment, taking small clients, building a reputation. Year 2, I brought on my first employee and rented a tiny office in Culver City. Year 3, we moved here and expanded to a team of 5. Now we're 12 full-time staff with a roster of contract specialists we bring in for major projects. Last year, we did $8.2 million in revenue with a profit margin of 31%. This year, we're projected to hit $12 million. The numbers hung in the air. I watched them process, watched their faces cycle through shock and disbelief, and finally, grudging acceptance. "Why Patterson?" Caroline asked. "Why not Harrison?" "Patterson is my middle name, Grandma Patterson's maiden name, the one you gave me after she died. I wanted to honor her, and I wanted some distance from the family name. I needed to know I could succeed on my own merit, not because I was Richard Harrison's daughter." Richard flinched at that, but he nodded. "I understand. I respect that, actually. Though I have to say, you could have leveraged the family name for much faster growth." "I didn't want fast growth. I wanted sustainable growth. I wanted to build something that mattered, not something that just made money." Jenna knocked on the open door, holding a tablet. "Sorry to interrupt, Alina, but the Friedman Foundation is online too. They want to discuss expanding the contract we talked about last month. Tell them I'll call back in an hour." "Will do. Also, the cookies are ready if your guests want some." After Jenna left, Vanessa let out a long breath. "Okay, I believe you. This is real. You actually did all of this." "Did you think I was lying?" "Honestly, yeah. I thought you'd rented an office for the day and hired actors or something. I thought this was going to be the most pathetic catfish situation ever." She laughed, but it sounded shaky. "I'm the worst sister in the world, aren't I?" "You're the sister who never bothered to know me. There's a difference." Sebastian had been quiet through the whole tour, just watching and listening. Now he spoke up. "Elena, can I ask you something? Why nonprofit consulting specifically? You obviously have the skills to make a fortune in corporate consulting. Why focus on organizations that typically can't pay top dollar?" It was a good question. The kind of question that showed he actually understood business. I liked him a little more for asking it. "Because I wanted my work to matter. Corporate consulting pays well, but at the end of the day, you're just helping rich companies get richer. Nonprofit consulting means I'm helping organizations feed hungry kids, house homeless families, provide health care to people who can't afford it. Every dollar I help them save or earn more efficiently is a dollar that goes directly to serving people who need it. That feels important to me. That feels like a life well spent." Caroline was crying quietly, tears running down her cheeks, ruining her perfect makeup. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Alina, I'm so sorry. I made you feel like you had to hide this, like you couldn't trust us with your success. What kind of mother does that?" "The kind who loved Vanessa more," I said, and the truth of it hung heavy in the room. "The kind who always had a favorite and didn't try to hide it." "That's not true," Caroline said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Mom, it's okay. I made peace with it a long time ago. Vanessa was everything you wanted in a daughter, ambitious, polished, traditionally successful. I was the weird one who cared too much about feelings and fairness and making things better instead of just making money. Of course you loved her more. She was easier to love." Vanessa made a sound like she'd been punched. "Stop, just stop. You don't get to act." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Seconds ticked by. Finally, she whispered, "I don't remember." "Exactly." Richard cleared his throat, that familiar sound that meant he was uncomfortable and wanted to move things along. "Well, this has been enlightening. Elena, I'm impressed, truly impressed, and I apologize for underestimating you. I'd like to make it up to you, if you'll let me." Here it comes, I thought, the offer of help that's really about control. "I don't need anything, Dad. Just hear me out. Your mother and I have been discussing our estate planning. We have some significant assets, as you know, and we've been trying to figure out the best way to divide things. Originally, we were going to split everything 50-50 between you girls, but given that Vanessa has always been more financially stable, we were considering giving her a larger share, with the understanding that she'd help take care of you if you needed it. I felt my stomach drop. Of course they were. Of course they decided Vanessa deserved more because she was the successful one, never mind that I was apparently more successful than they'd ever imagined. But now, Richard continued, I think we need to reconsider. You've proven you can manage significant assets responsibly. You've built something impressive. You deserve equal treatment. Wow, I said flatly. Thanks for considering treating your daughters equally. What a revolutionary concept. Caroline winced. Elena, please, we're trying. I know you are, and I appreciate it. But here's the thing. I don't want your money. I don't want your estate. When you die, which hopefully won't be for a very long time, leave everything to Vanessa. I'm doing fine on my own. Don't be ridiculous, Vanessa snapped. You can't just refuse an inheritance. Watch me. Why? Why would you do that? Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if you resent me for taking half of what you think should be yours. Because I don't want money to be the thing that defines our relationship, or lack thereof. Because I want to continue building my own wealth, my own legacy, my own life. I don't need Harrison family money. I never have. Sebastian was watching me with this expression of dawning respect, like he was seeing me for the first time. You really mean that? I really mean that. That's incredibly principled, and probably kind of foolish given that we're probably talking about millions of dollars. 9.7 million, Richard said quietly, give or take. Between the house in Brentwood, the vacation property in Montecito, the investment accounts, the art collection. I laughed. I couldn't help it. 9.7 million that you were going to give more of to Vanessa because you thought I couldn't handle money responsibly? That's hilarious. Elena, Caroline said, her voice pleading, please don't be like this. Like what? Honest? Independent? Successful? Sorry, Mom, but I'm not going to apologize for being those things. Vanessa was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. You're serious? You actually don't want the money? I actually don't want the money. I want a relationship with my family that isn't based on who's succeeding more or who needs help or who's the disappointment. I want us to treat each other like equals, like people who care about each other beyond the surface. But if we can't have that, then I'm okay walking away. You'd really do it, she said, wonder creeping into her voice. You'd really cut us off? In a heartbeat. I've built a life I love without you. I have friends, I have meaningful work, I have respect from people I admire. What I don't have is family who actually knows me or values me for who I am. And if I can't have that, I'd rather have nothing. The silence that followed was deafening. We all stood there in my office, surrounded by evidence of my success, confronting truths that had been buried for years. Outside, I could hear my team working, phones ringing, normal office sounds that felt surreal against the heavy emotion in the room. Finally, Caroline spoke, her voice thick with tears. What do you want from us, Elena? Tell us what you want and we'll do it. I thought about that question. What did I want? For them to love me the way they loved Vanessa? That ship had sailed long ago. For them to be proud of me? I'd realized I didn't need their pride anymore. For them to understand me? That seemed impossible after 32 years of missing the point. I want you to see me, I said finally. Not who you want me to be, not who you think I should be, just who I actually am. I want you to ask questions and listen to the answers. I want you to stop comparing me to Vanessa and stop treating every conversation like a competition. I want a relationship based on mutual respect, not on one person being better than the other. I paused, looking at each of them. And if you can't do that, I want you to leave me alone, completely. No fake concern, no guilt trips, no manipulation. Just let me live my life in peace. Richard's face had gone pale. You can't mean that. We're family. Being family means you share DNA, Dad. It doesn't automatically mean you have a relationship. That has to be built on trust and respect and genuine care. We don't have that. We haven't had it for a long time, maybe ever. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Vanessa's phone buzzed and she glanced at it, then showed it to Sebastian. He read whatever was on the screen, and his expression shifted into something complicated. What? I asked. Sebastian looked uncomfortable. It's from my mother. She's asking if we can move the wedding date up. She's worried about her health and wants to make sure she's there. That's understandable, I said, not sure why he was telling me this. The thing is, Vanessa said slowly, we were planning a year-long engagement, big wedding, lots of planning. But if we move it up, we'd need to do it in the next few months, much smaller, much simpler. Okay, Vanessa took a breath. And Mom wanted to help pay for the wedding. She offered to contribute $200,000 from the estate as an early inheritance gift. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. Let me guess. You thought I'd object because I'd want half. Well, yeah, it's technically an advance on inheritance, so it wouldn't be fair unless you got the same amount. I laughed again, bitter and tired. Vanessa, I just told you I don't want the estate money. Take the $200,000. Take $400,000. Take it all for all I care. I genuinely don't want it. But that's not fair to you, Caroline protested. It's perfectly fair because it's what I want. Look, here's a crazy idea. What if we stopped trying to make everything equal and instead tried to give each person what they actually need? Vanessa needs help with the wedding. I don't. So give her the help. When I need something that's not money, I'll ask. And if you can give it, great. If not, I'll figure it out on my own like I always have. Richard's face had gone pale. You can't mean that. We're family. Being family means you share DNA, Dad. It doesn't automatically mean you have a relationship. That has to be built on trust and respect and genuine care. We don't have that. We haven't had it for a long time, maybe ever. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Vanessa's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, then showed it to Sebastian. He read whatever was on the screen, and his expression shifted into something complicated. What? I asked. Sebastian looked uncomfortable. It's from my mother. She's asking if we can move the wedding date up. She's worried about her health and wants to make sure she's there. But if she genuinely doesn't want it, if she's truly okay with you having it, then there's no problem. The only issue is whether you believe her. I believe her, Vanessa said quietly, and I was shocked by how much that meant to me. I don't understand her, but I believe her. That's a start, I said. We stood there for another moment, and then Caroline moved forward and pulled me into a hug, a real one, not the careful air kiss thing she usually did. She held me tight, and I could feel her shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry, baby. I failed you. I was so focused on molding you into what I thought you should be that I never saw who you actually were. That's on me. That's my failure, not yours. I hugged her back, and to my surprise, I started crying. Not sad tears exactly, release tears, years of held-back emotion finally finding a way out. I just wanted you to be proud of me, I said, and I sounded about 12 years old. I am proud of you. I'm so proud of you I can barely stand it. What you've built here, what you've accomplished, it's extraordinary. You're extraordinary. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. When we pulled apart,
Caroline's makeup was completely ruined, and my face felt hot and swollen. Richard moved in next, pulling me into one of his awkward dad hugs that was more shoulder patting than actual affection, but I could feel him trying. "I'm proud too," he said gruffly, "and I promise to do better. Ask more questions, make fewer assumptions, be a better father." "That's all I want, Dad." Vanessa was watching all of this with an expression I couldn't quite read. When our parents stepped back, she and I looked at each other across the space of my office, sisters who'd been strangers for most of our lives, finally seeing each other clearly. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "I don't know how to have a real relationship with you. We've been competing for so long, I'm not sure I remember how to just be sisters." "Neither do I, but maybe we could try? Start small. Coffee once a month, actual conversations, see what happens." "I'd like that." She paused, then added, "And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Sebastian was right. I needed you to be the screw-up so I could be the success. That wasn't fair to you, and it wasn't kind. You deserved better from me." "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. Sebastian checked his watch. "We should probably go. I have a meeting at noon." He smiled at me. "Elena, thank you for showing us around. This place is remarkable, and you should be very proud of what you've built." "Thank you, and congratulations on the engagement. Vanessa's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her too." He said it, simply, sincerely, and I could see why Vanessa had fallen for him. He was kind, and kindness was rarer than success. They left in a flurry of goodbyes and promises to stay in touch, Caroline hugging me 3 more times, Richard shaking my hand formally, like we'd just concluded a business deal. When they were gone, I sat down at my desk and let out a long, shaky breath. Jenna appeared in the doorway with a cookie and a cup of coffee. "Well, how did it go?" "Honestly, better than I expected, worse than I hoped, somewhere in between." "Are they going to be in your life now? Like, for real?" "I think so. Maybe. We're going to try anyway." I took the coffee gratefully. "Thanks for this." "Anytime, boss. For what it's worth, they looked pretty blown away when they left. Your mom was crying, your dad looked like someone had hit him with a brick, and your sister looked like she was having an existential crisis. That sounds about right."
The rest of the day passed in a blur of work and phone calls and meetings, normal life asserting itself over the drama of the morning. By the time I locked up the office and headed home, I felt wrung out, but somehow lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know about and had finally set it down. My phone buzzed as I was unlocking my apartment door. A text from Vanessa. "Coffee next Saturday? Just us?" I smiled and typed back, "Sure, there's a place in Silver Lake I love. I'll send you the address." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Looking forward to it. And Elena, thank you for not giving up on us." "Thank you for finally seeing me," I wrote back. Inside my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped out onto my tiny balcony. The city stretched out before me, all lights and possibilities, and I felt something unfamiliar bubbling up in my chest. Hope, maybe. Or peace. Or just the simple satisfaction of knowing I'd told the truth and survived it. My phone rang. Richard's number. "Hey, Dad." "Elena, I forgot to mention something today. There's a piece of property, a small commercial building your grandfather left me years ago. It's been sitting empty, and I've been meaning to do something with it, but never got around to it. I'd like to give it to you." "Dad, I told you I don't want—" "It's not about the inheritance. It's about making things right. That building should have gone to you years ago. Your grandfather specifically said it was for the grandchild with vision, and I gave it to Vanessa because I assumed that meant her. But he meant you. He always saw something in you that I missed, so I'm giving it to you now, separate from any estate planning. It's just a small building in Pasadena, maybe 8,000 square feet, but it's yours if you want it. I was quiet for a moment, processing. Why now? Because I should have done it 10 years ago. Because you've earned it. Because I want to do at least one thing right by you. He paused. Will you take it? I thought about my growing team, about the Thornton contract and the expansion plans I'd been sketching out. We were running out of space in the arts district, and Pasadena would be a good location for a second office. Okay, I said. Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me another chance. His voice cracked slightly. I know I don't deserve it. We all deserve second chances, Dad. We just have to be brave enough to take them. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony until the stars came out, thinking about family and forgiveness and the strange paths our lives take. I'd spent so many years being angry at them, being hurt by them, building walls to keep them out. And in one strange evening, those walls had started to crack. Would things be perfect now? Absolutely not. Would my mother stop making passive-aggressive comments? Probably not. Would Vanessa and I suddenly become best friends? Unlikely. But maybe we could be real with each other. Maybe we could build something honest, even if it was messy and imperfect. The next Saturday, I met Vanessa at the coffee shop in Silver Lake. She showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, no makeup, hair in a ponytail. I'd never seen her look so casual. Wow, I said. No Chanel suit? She laughed. Sebastian said I should try just being myself for once. Apparently, I'm intimidating when I'm in full lawyer mode. You're definitely intimidating. We ordered our coffee and sat by the window. For a few minutes, we didn't talk, just sipped our drinks and watched people pass on the street. It was comfortable, which was new. Can I ask you something? Vanessa finally said. Sure. Do you really not resent me for being the favorite, for getting all the attention, for everything? I thought about it, honestly. I used to. For a long time, I was so angry at you, I could barely stand to be in the same room. But then I realized you were just being yourself, and Mom and Dad loving you more wasn't your fault. It was their limitation, not yours. So no, I don't resent you. I actually feel bad for you sometimes. Why? Because you've spent your whole life trying to be perfect for them, and that's exhausting. At least I gave up early and got to just be myself. She was quiet, staring into her coffee. You're right, it is exhausting. Sometimes I look at my life and I'm not even sure which parts are mine and which parts I built to make them proud. That's what therapy is for. You go to therapy? Have been for 3 years. Best money I ever spent. You should try it. Maybe I will. She smiled, and it was genuine this time, not the perfect social smile she usually wore. So, tell me about your business. Really tell me. I want to understand what you do. So, I told her about the organizations I worked with, the problems I solved, the satisfaction of seeing a struggling nonprofit turn around and thrive. I told her about the thank you letters and the success stories and the kids who got better services because we'd helped their organization run more efficiently. She listened, really listened, asking smart questions, showing genuine interest. And I realized this was what I'd always wanted, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. That's incredible, she said when I finished, and it's so you. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't see it. You were always the one who cared about fairness, about helping people. Remember when you were 9 and you organized that bake sale to raise money for the animal shelter? I'd forgotten about that. Mom thought it was a waste of time, but you didn't care. You just did it anyway and raised like $300. That's the same energy as what you're doing now, just on a bigger scale. I guess it is. We talked for 2 hours, covering everything from childhood memories to career stress to relationships. She told me about the pressure she felt to have a perfect wedding, perfect marriage, perfect life. I told her about the loneliness of building a business alone, of keeping secrets, of always feeling like I had something to prove. When we finally left, we hugged goodbye, and it felt real in a way our interactions never had before. "Same time next month?" she asked. "Definitely." Over the next few weeks, things slowly shifted. Caroline called once a week just to chat, not to criticize or give advice, just to check in. During her vows, she said something that made me cry. "I've spent most of my life trying to be the best, to win, to prove myself. But you taught me that being loved isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. You see all of me, the good and the messy and the uncertain, and you love me anyway. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me." I thought about us, about sisters who were finally learning to be real with each other, about parents who were trying to do better, about a family slowly healing from years of dysfunction. Maybe that was all any of us could ask for: to be seen, to be accepted, to be loved despite our flaws. At the reception, Richard pulled me aside. "I transferred the deed to the Pasadena building into your name. It's officially yours." "Thank you, Dad. Thank you for giving me another chance. I know I was a terrible father in a lot of ways. I'm trying to be better." "You are better. We all are." He hugged me, and this time it wasn't awkward at all. Caroline found me later, slightly tipsy on champagne, and pulled me onto the dance floor. We swayed to some slow song, and she whispered, "I love you, Elena. I should have said it more when you were growing up. I should have shown it better. But I do love you so much." "I love you too, Mom. I'm proud of you, not just because of your success, but because of who you are. You're kind and principled and brave. You stand up for what you believe in. You're the best of me and your father, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. It's okay. We're here now." When I drove home that night, I felt something settle inside me. Not happiness, exactly, not closure, just peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you told the truth and it didn't destroy you. The kind that comes from being brave enough to set boundaries and generous enough to allow for growth. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenna. "How was the wedding?" I typed back, "Beautiful. Everything worked out." And for once, that felt completely true. 6 months later, I signed the papers to open our second office in the Pasadena building Richard had given me. The team had grown to 20 full-time employees, and we just landed 3 major contracts that would take us through the next 2 years. The Thornton project had been such a success that other organizations were lining up to work with us. At the grand opening party, my whole family showed up. Caroline brought flowers, Richard brought champagne, Vanessa and Sebastian brought a custom sign for the door with our company name. They mingled with my team, asked genuine questions, showed real interest. I stood in the middle of the celebration, surrounded by people I'd chosen and people I'd been given, and I realized I'd finally built the life I wanted. Not perfect, but real. Not without struggle, but honest. Not what they'd imagined for me, but entirely, completely mine. Jenna clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Speech time! Come on, boss, tell us how you feel." I laughed and shook my head, but everyone was looking at me expectantly, so I raised my glass. "Thank you all for being here. For those of you who work with me, thank you for believing in the mission and putting in the hard work that makes this company special. For my family, thank you for being willing to grow and change and try. That takes courage, and I appreciate it more than you know." I paused, finding the right words. I spent a long time thinking I had to choose between being myself and being part of my family. I thought I had to hide who I was to avoid disappointing them, or reject them entirely to protect myself. But it turns out there's a third option: being brave enough to be yourself and trusting that the people who love you will rise to meet you there. It doesn't always work out, but sometimes, if you're lucky and everyone's willing to try, it does. Caroline was crying again, but they were happy tears this time. Richard raised his glass in salute. Vanessa smiled at me across the room, and in that smile, I saw everything we'd survived and everything we might become. The party went late into the night. People talked and laughed and celebrated, and I floated through it all feeling lighter than I had in years. When everyone finally left and I was locking up the office, Sebastian hung back. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Sure." "That night at the engagement dinner, when I realized who you were, I almost called off the wedding." I stared, shocked. "What? Why?" "Because I saw how your family treated you, and I thought anyone who could be that blind to someone extraordinary probably wasn't worth marrying. But then I watched Vanessa over the next few weeks, watched her wrestle with what she'd learned about you, watched her try to be better, and I realized she wasn't a bad person. She was just someone who'd never been challenged to grow. You gave her that challenge. You gave all of them that challenge, and they rose to it eventually. That made me believe we could work through anything. I'm glad you didn't call it off. She loves you. She's happy with you. I'm happy with her too, and I'm glad you're in our lives. You make us better." After he left, I stood alone in the empty office, looking around at what I'd built. 2 locations, 20 employees, dozens of successful projects, hundreds of lives improved, a family that was broken and slowly healing, a sister I was learning to know, parents who were trying to do better. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from an unknown number. "Miss Patterson, this is the Friedman Foundation. We'd like to discuss a major expansion of our partnership. Are you available for a call next week?" I smiled and saved the number. Absolutely, looking forward to it. Then I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked out into the warm California night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new projects, new opportunities to prove that you don't need anyone's permission to be extraordinary. You just need the courage to know your own worth and the strength to stand by it, no matter who's watching or who's judging or who thinks they know better. I'd spent 32 years waiting for my family to see me. In the end, all I'd needed to do was see myself clearly enough that hiding became impossible. Everything else had followed from that one act of courage. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Vanessa. "Dinner next week? Just us sisters. I want to hear about the new office and whatever else is going on in your life." I typed back immediately. "Perfect. I'll tell you about the Friedman expansion and you can tell me about the honeymoon. Deal?" "Deal. Love you, sis." "Love you too." I slipped my phone into my pocket and headed toward my car, feeling the kind of contentment that only comes from living authentically. The kind that says, no matter what happens next, you've already won the only battle that truly matters, the one for your own soul, your own truth, your own life. The estate they'd fought over, the $9.7 million they'd planned to divide unequally, seemed meaningless now compared to what I'd actually gained. A family that finally knew me, a sister I was building a real relationship with, parents who were learning to see beyond their own expectations, and most importantly, the unshakable knowledge that I was enough, exactly as I was. I'd built an empire they never saw coming. But more than that, I'd built a life worth living. And that, I thought as I drove through the glittering Los Angeles night, was the sweetest revenge of all. Not needing revenge anymore, just living so fully and authentically that their approval became optional instead of essential. The girl they'd mocked at the engagement dinner had disappeared. In her place stood a woman who knew her worth, defended her boundaries, and refused to be diminished by anyone's limited imagination. And that woman was just getting started.